and welcome to Those Who Can't Do. I'm Andrea Forkham, and I'm your host, and I am so excited about the guest that we have today. But before we get there, I have to tell you something that happened to me this week, or that potentially could happen to me in the very near-ish future. So my husband is in PA school right now, right? And we're new to this area. So while he is going through and he's rotating through all of his different specialties, which is part of the PA program, I am also meeting with various doctors, getting established and like starting my care with these different doctors, right? And I have one particular appointment that I'm not looking forward to that's next month at the OBGYN to get a pap smear because we got to take care of ourselves, right? And so I was looking at the schedule and I realized that the love of my life, the father of my children, is also going to be doing his OBGYN rotation next month with my OB over the time period that I am visiting. And so the question then presents itself is if I hear that knock knock on my door and they come in and they say, "Would you like a student today?" Do I say yes and let my husband smear my pap? You know, I can't, I don't, and like I talked about it a little bit on my Instagram stories, and some people, mostly guys who are less familiar with the process, were like, he's already seen everything. You don't see your cervix when you're just having a Saturday night. Okay. So it's not the same. So that's still, we're going to see where that leads us. I'm thinking no at this point, but maybe just for science and learning, I will allow it to happen, but we'll see. It's very unsettling at this point. Somebody else who I will be seeing very soon in a completely non-gynecological sense is the very funny guest that I have today, Devin Siebold. He is going to be touring in Indiana next month, and I'm going to be taking a bunch of my students to go see him. And I was also lucky enough last year to be a guest on his podcast, Crying in My Car. I am so delighted to have him on today. So let's get to it. Welcome to Those Who Can't Do. And today I have the very funny Devin Siebold with me. Devin, thank you so much for coming.
Yes, thank you for having me. Nice to see you again.
Yeah, this is so fun. Yeah, I know. I was trying to remember because it feels like it's been such a long time, but it was like last spring, I think, so almost a year, that I came out and was on your podcast.
Yep, on the Crying in My Car podcast. Yeah, it was great to have you. You were one of we've only had like 4 in-studio guests, and you were one of the 4. And it was great.
It was so much fun. It was such an honor to be on there. I had such a good time. And I got to visit Florida for the first time since I was like 4 years old was probably the previous time. So it was a blast. And you right now are not in Florida. You are actually in Toronto.
Yeah. I decided to come up here and do some shows as soon as they got 6 to 8 inches of snow. I said, you know what? That's when it's ideal to visit.
Right. Yeah. That tracks. So now, can you talk a little bit about, because right now you're like full-time touring comedian, correct? Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about why you became a teacher initially and how you got to where you are now?
Sure. My journey into teaching was kind of odd. I actually originally was a psychology major, and I was like a dual enrolled student. So I had almost like 90 plus credit hours towards a psych major. And then I took a class with a teacher that it was called Psych of, Child Psychology, like 101, basically. And we were like reading some of the stories of these children, and I was crying. I was like in the back of the room, and I was just crying. And I was like the only person, but I'm like overly sensitive. I like, especially when I read about like sad things, I start crying. I'll start crying if I talk about it too much. I cry a lot. And so I was reading about these stories and I was crying. And my psych professor comes up to me. He goes, this isn't for you. And I was like, why? He goes, well, you can't just sit across from a kid and cry. And just like, he said, you're the therapy. You're supposed to be the rock. And he's like, every time we talk about like children being hurt or like, traumatic things, you're supposed to just absorb it. And he goes, you reflect it. And they don't want reflection. They want release. And and I was like, oh, and I just thought about it for a while. And he was like, I think you should do something else. And he said, he goes, maybe teach or something. He goes, then you can help kids and you don't have to deal as much with the trauma. Little did he know.
Right. Exactly.
Right? But I thought about it, and I had an old teacher, Mr. Murphy, that was awesome. And I was like, it would be kind of cool to be like him and make a difference and be there for the kids. And it was one of those things that I was like, you know what, let me give it a shot. And I switched majors, started taking education classes, got to work in the classroom like right away. And I was like, yeah, this is it. I was like, this is what I like. I like seeing the impact right away, positive impact, kids coming to you with like hope in their eyes, like knowing that you were somebody who could change their lives. And it was a lot better than I would have been as a psychologist. I probably still would have been crying in some therapy room. I'd have to do like an hour of therapy and then an hour cry session scheduled for me like right after.
Right. Yeah. So you mentioned a teacher who you were thinking about when you decided to become a teacher yourself. What was it about him that kind of stuck out to you?
His humor, his love for the profession, and his way of just connecting with us. I mean, he made me feel like he cared about me. And I know that he genuinely did. That's the wild thing is, I actually had the real fortunate benefit of speaking at a history conference in Florida. And so I go around to do professional speaking at schools, PD, keynotes, things like that. And, I got invited to this history conference, and he actually messaged me and he said, I'm retiring. And he said, this is my last year and I'm at the history conference this year. And he goes, so it'll be amazing to see you on stage after all these years. And it had been 20 years since I was in his class. And I got up on stage, I did a big speech, and it was great. Everything went well. And then at the end, I was like, I have the person here to thank for all this is this person. He's right here. And I did a big speech about him, and he cried, and it was great. But it was one of those moments where it comes full circle, where the student gets to express what a teacher actually did and how they impacted them. And it was amazing because afterwards we went and we had a beer. How cool to be able to have a beer with your teacher,
Yeah.
And we sat down, we had a beer, and it was like it was like 20 years never happened. He was right back into it. And he goes, so how's Mike? How's Britt? How's this? I remember this. And he started just telling me everything about like, he was telling me about students that I forgot about. And he was asking, he goes, Sarah did this and Lauren did this and you're not going to believe. And he was so proud of us still. 20 years later, he held pride in those students that he had 20 years ago. And he's had thousands of kids since and knew everything about us. And I was like, I made the right decision in role model. It's one of those things where you look back and you're like, yeah, that was the guy that should have led my life, and it was awesome. So he's a great guy, Mr. Murphy. And he was such an inspiration to all of us. Like, it's one of those things where you ask kids who they think about that went to that school and they're like, oh, Murphy. And it wasn't anything that he did different other than literally look at you like you were the only kid in the class, like you were his sole responsibility. And he was so invested in you. And it was a cool thing.
That, I always wanted to be that teacher that like would see a kid they haven't seen in 20 years and be like, oh my gosh, yeah, of course I remember you, and remember their name and their hobbies. Despite my best efforts, I get about 3 months out from the end of the school year and I cannot remember names. I recognize faces, but I cannot remember names. And it totally ruins being like, oh, when they come up and they're like, you were my favorite teacher. And I'm like, hey, you, I do remember I taught you. Like, I feel so terrible because I always wanted to be like, just like that, right? Where it's like, oh yeah, of course I remember you. And I would watch all those like inspirational stories about these teachers who retire after, however many decades of teaching. And they see these grown adults come through and they name each of their former students. And I'm like, I want to be that. And I have never a day in my life been able to do that. Are you able to remember students' names and stuff like that?
No, not really. I wish I could. My problem was I taught in a majority Hispanic area, so I had like 72 Maria Rodriguez, and
Yeah.
so there were so many names that were very family oriented, very cultural, very like significant to that area, and so a lot of my students share the same names, hyphenated this, different versions of, and so it was. It's always like, oh, which student are you? And then they tell me, and as soon as they tell me their name, I've got 20 other kids in my mind with that same name, and I'm going, which one were you though? Which Maria
Right.
Rodriguez were you? You were 2016 Maria. Okay, I remember you. I
Yeah.
remember usually the student, but it's the names are very difficult. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Which again, just highlights how amazing the teacher you had really was, that he was still able to remember all of those other students and all that. Cause I like you said, like I have classmates that like they'll pop up on Facebook as like a recommended person. And I'm like, oh, I forgot they existed until this moment. Like
Yep.
fully forgot they were gone from my brain and my memories. And some of them I went to school with like since kindergarten. And I'm like, oh yeah. Like
Yep.
I knew you for a decade and I just gone. So
Andrea,
bad.
you ever been on the reverse end of that where like I messaged an old friend. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I haven't seen you in like 15 years." And he's like, "Remind me who you are." And I was like, "You were my best friend." I'm like,
No.
I literally wore our friendship bracelets for like 2 years thinking that he was like, it was my friend Drew in like 5th grade, and Drew had no clue who I was. And I was like, "Oh dude, you were my best buddy. We had friendship bracelets. We played basketball every day together." And he like, I don't know, he just couldn't remember me. And I'm like, okay.
You're like, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Love that for me. That's so
Right.
brutal.
Yes.
So once you got into the classroom, what was different from kind of what your expectations were?
Oh boy. So I had a very difficult transition into class. That's what people, I guess, my jump off was uh, a point that I'd never wish on anybody. I was 21 when I graduated college. I got hired to teach intensive reading to seniors that had failed our Florida state exam 2 or 3 times. I was 21 and there were students in my class that were all 19 and 20. And as soon as I found that out, I grew a beard. Like my first year, I was like, because I was like,
Yeah.
how do I discern myself as the adult in the room? Like I can't go in there and be like, hey guys, we need to learn. And I wouldn't take myself seriously because
Right.
I'd be like, dude, you're a year older than us. And so I never told them my age. I pretended like I had been teaching for forever. I had a big long beard and I just tried to play it off as super old. I had suit and tie every day because I was
Yeah.
like, no, I'm the professional. Like it was so hard to set that groundwork. Then I
Yeah.
went and taught middle school the next year because it was a recession and they were laying people off left and right. And I was lucky that I got laid off, but I got immediately hired as a middle school teacher. And that was way different. So I went from high school 1920 to 6th grade. And 6th grade was such a learning curve. The kids' personalities, I just wasn't ready for how much energy they were going to throw at me and how to really like absorb it, or like you get energy thrown at you, and if you're a curmudgeon kind of teacher, you try to push back against it. And I was like, no, I like the energy, I just don't know how to creatively use it to my advantage. So
Yeah.
that was a massive learning curve, is like, how do I get the kids' energy to do what I want it to do? And
Right.
so it took a while to set a bar with them, and especially because I don't know if there's any teachers that can relate to this, but I taught at a school that was K through 8. So I think it's almost a disadvantage because the kids and the teachers and everybody, the whole community has been together for so long, and they go into 6th grade and they already knew the 6th grade teachers, but somebody quit. So now I'm the fish out of water. It's not like a new school where they're just coming there and they've never met us before. They had like a rapport with the teachers already there. And all the students already knew each other because they were all just came from fifth. There weren't new kids coming from out. It wasn't like a mishmash of all the elementary schools. It was just they moved up.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, I have to try to fit in to this ecosystem that is very well developed, and everybody has roles, and I don't know where my role is. And it was difficult for sure.
Can you share some stories from that year of like where it just went awry and that energy, instead of being put to like good use, instead just spun out?
Well, I volunteered myself because I thought it would be great to like make a connection to the kids. I volunteered myself to be pied during a like a festival type day. They had a dunk tank. And the dunk tank, like one teacher was in the dunk tank and he went right for it. And then the principal was like, oh, I'm going to do, I'll run the pin the tail on the donkey. And they're like, we need somebody to be pied. And I was like, you know what? I'll be pied. I'll let them throw some pies at me. Let me tell you right now, those kids had aggression. I think like I literally thought a pie broke my nose like 7 times. There's pictures of them. I've got tons of pictures online of them literally just smashing me in the face. Kids that I'm like, do I even teach you?
Right.
They're like,
yeah. You're like, how can you have beef with me? I don't know you.
They were getting like running starts to throw just because it was the one chance they had to be like violent with the teacher.
Right.
The throwing of the ball, they couldn't hit the teacher with the ball in the dunk tank,
Yeah.
They weren't involved. But this one was like, we can literally assault a teacher and it's fine. And I'm like, I just thought it would be funny, harmless. I get some whipped cream on me. No, I got obliterated. And I was like, never doing that again, ever.
Now, did you still have the beard during that time?
No, I got rid of the beard. Yeah. I was clean shaven for the most part. Otherwise I would have been, that would have been even worse. Or maybe I could have used it to protect my face. I don't know. I was
Yeah, I've been there. So at the last school I was at, actually, they would do something for like a spirit week, and they would have the teachers there and they would do the pie in the face things. But it wasn't just one of us, that we would all line up and like put our face through the holes, and then the students could walk by and just chuck it at whichever teacher they want, which again, like, I guess it helps school culture, but like,
or I don't know, or just so the principal wanted to see us get, hit with pies. It was so much aggression in these children.
And it's horrible because it gets into your hair and is like, because at least at the oily, because they use like, they don't actually use a full pie because that would be expensive. They would just take tins and fill them with like foamy whipped cream that then they shove into your face, and it just gets in your eyes. And it like, at first you're like, oh, yum, whipped cream. And then it starts melting and like really congealing on your clothes. Oh, it is foul.
Yep, absolutely. I remember every second of it. I think I'm still cleaning shaving cream and whipped cream out of my hair from that.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. But it's about the relationships, right? We're just out there building relationships.
Whatever you call that.
Right. So how long did you teach middle school then?
I taught it for 3 years, and I got really lucky. That was my only, like, I was originally just going to do one and done for middle school because I really wanted to be with the high school kids. But 6th grade, they had me teaching 6th grade because the guy quit. He literally like up and left immediely. Like, I'm telling you, there was coffee still on the desk. Like, he wanted nothing to do with that class.
Oh my gosh.
And so they had me, I was teaching 6th grade. Then the 7th grade teacher quit and I moved up. And then the 8th grade teacher quit and I moved up. And so all the kids were moving up. And so the second they got to 8th grade, I was like, all right, do I do this all over again? I built these relationships with these kids. I had a lot of fun. My school district required you to be in a position for 3 years before you could sign a professional contract and get a tenure. So I was in there for 3 years. I got tenure. I signed the professional contract. And I was like, no, I really want to go for the high school kids. And I wanted to follow Mr. Murphy. Mr. Murphy was a high school teacher. I had ideas of what my class was going to be like. And I was not fulfilling them in middle school. Middle school was so much chaos. And it was more just managing the chaos rather than building the relationships that I wanted to have in high school. So I went over to high school for a bit.
Okay. So how long were you teaching high school then?
I did high school my first year, 3 years in middle school, and then 9 years in high school after that. So
Nice.
mhm.
And what grades did you teach?
All of them, literally all of them at once sometimes, because, like they would have you teach. I started off with seniors. I know it makes me sound like a terrible teacher, but I was highly effective every year. But they just lost so many teachers that they kept moving me. And and they were like, okay, one year my first year I taught government and economics. The next year was US history, Psych 1, Psych 2, law, human geography, world geography, back to Psych 1, AP economics. It was literally everything. And so it was all over the place, multiple preps, 3 or 4 a year. And sometimes like the psych classes were weird. I love psychology. It's one of my favorite things to teach, but it was a catch-all class for kids that didn't have room in an elective course. And they threw 9th through 12th in against their will. Nobody ever signed up for it. They signed up for like soccer, but soccer would fill up. And so they were like, we're giving you psych. And so that was one of I was so passionate about it. It ruined me thinking of, this is something that I loved. I've already gone to college for this and I can share it. And the kids were not into it. So it's hard when you're passionate about your subject and you're given kids that aren't wanting to be there. Then it's like, what do you do?
Yeah, exactly. I remember my first year teaching, I was teaching English 12 and it was remedial. And so these kids had failed the previous, like the state test, 11th grade. And so they were in my class. And so I'm up there trying to teach them. I have a vivid memory of trying to teach them The Wife of Bath's Tale from Canterbury Tales. Mm-hmm. And I'm like trying to pitch every single time we did it, like trying to pitch to them, like, this is the most exciting content you're ever going to get in your life. And I had there was one kid, as I was reading The Wife of Bath's Tale, and the whole thing with her is that she had lots of husbands and she killed them all. And she's very curvaceous. And so I'm reading that. And I had one student that raised his hand after I read the story. And I was like, yeah. He's like, so what you're saying is the wife of Bath, she was a big booty hoe. And I was like, you know what? Yes.
Right.
We'll let it stand. Yes. If that's how you want to translate it and make it work, yes. Because like when you've got kids who hate the content and you're just trying anything, you're like, sure. Yep. That's exactly who she was. Now you will remember for the test.
Yep. You put that as an answer. D, big booty.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh. Now, when you were teaching high school, did you ever have any like really embarrassing moments as the teacher?
I don't know. There's so many times where I was like, what am I doing? There were, my most, the one that came to my mind immediately is I split my pants in the parking lot. And I was like, okay, you split your pants. No big deal. I had time to go home. I went, changed. The next morning, I wore the split pants. Forgot that they were split. Just wore them. So 10 minutes into class, the kids are like, we can see your underwear. I'm like, what? And I was like, oh no. And I was like, good thing I wore underwear, But it was, so split pants is quite a big one. And then there was another time where I was sick and I was like throwing up in class, and it was hard because we didn't have any subs. We didn't have anything. And I had just had a kid. So I had used up all my time and I couldn't just go away and stay home. And I knew it wasn't viral. It was something that I ate the night before because I remember distinctly what it was. And I remember I was just in front of the class and I'd be like, so anyways, guys, hold on. And I would take the trash can, walk outside the door, and just then I'd come back in and be like, okay, so open up the books.
Oh my gosh. And your admin, did they know that you were in there hurling or?
Yeah, of course. There's no hiding it. And it's just like, at least he's here, Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, well, and I think people who have never been in the classroom, they don't understand like that element of like, if I don't show up, then I have to sit here and spend 45 minutes writing sub plans that the kids aren't going to do. And then I'm going to have to come back and we're going to have to go back and reteach it. And you like deal with all of that. And your admin's probably pissed at you because they have to now suddenly either cover or find a sub or whatever. And so you just come and like just die in front of your class.
Yep. When you're out of days too, and they're unpaid, people don't understand that when teachers are unpaid, we had something called holdback. So we would get paid 12 months out of the year, but really we were just taking money from the 10 months we worked and they were putting it into a little account on the side and then paying us a normal check during the summer. Well, when you run out of days and you have to miss a day, they take the money that you made that day and they just subtract it from your current paycheck and the holdback money stays the same. So you take a huge chunk out of your paycheck. I mean, you could literally miss, a full week of unpaid work and get paid almost nothing because your holdback is taking the normal chunk, not just a percentage wise of what you made. And it always hurt. So anytime I miss like one day, I'd be like, okay, well, the light bill is going on a credit card this month and got to figure that out. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, brutal. So when did you start doing stand-up?
About 12 years ago. I was really, it stemmed from the school because I was, my first year when I said I taught the seniors and I was like, about their age, we had like some weird year of bomb threats, like lots of bomb threats. And when they did bomb threats, they would move us into like a separate room and we had none of our teaching supplies. And sometimes they'd group, like they'd say, okay, 4 classes are going in this room with this one teacher to look over them. And you just stand there and it would quickly devolve into chaos, like chaos. Right. And there were fights sometimes, there were just kids yelling, screaming. And I was like, how can I like control this chaos? And I had a really funny story from college and I knew it was a super funny story. And one day I go, guys, I said, I have a really funny story to tell you. And they all like quieted down. And I said, you guys sit down. I'll tell you the funny story. And I told them the funny story and these kids cracked up. They thought it was hysterical. And we had like clockwork, like 2 weeks later, another bomb threat. And somebody was like, tell us another story. And I was like, all right. And I had quite a few stories from college that I thought were funny. And I told them the story and they were cracking up. And I had them like in the palm of my hand, quiet, organized, listening to me. I was like, this is so awesome. And one of the students, after the second time, he goes, you should do stand up. And it just was something that I never thought of. And I was like, maybe I always wrote comedy. I've always been a writer, write a lot of humorous poems, stories, things like that, just creatively for myself. And I was like, you know what, maybe. And I took a stand-up comedy class and it was awesome. And I was like, this is something I really like. And it turns out I had so many good stories, and being a teacher, teaching is a huge advantage when it comes to becoming a comedian. Because you know how to manage the silence, you know how to manage the kids, you know how to organize your thoughts, and it was a lot better. So I made that transition, and it was like natural right off the bat. I was really happy with it. So I did both for quite some time.
That's so cool. I love that a student and especially when a student tells you stuff like that, like, they're not just like gassing you up, because they don't do that. Like they would destroy you in a second. But sometimes they do that where they like say something that just is so meaningful and it changes us.
Yeah, I agree.
That's so cool.
Yeah, he's a good kid. And I used to really, really destroy him in Call of Duty. So I felt really bad about that afterwards. I'm like, dude, you gave me this awesome career, but man, I used to just wreck you in Call of Duty.
Has he come to any of your stand-up shows?
Yeah, he came pretty early on, and I was just kind of trying out some stuff. I haven't talked to him in a while, but I'll probably reach out to him. And he's a good kid. He was real like Southern and repaired cars and started up his own like business and things like that. And so, and he actually, it was awesome because when we came back from field trip, my car wouldn't start, and he fixed it in the parking lot. And,
oh my gosh!
And I got to drive off, and I was like, man, this is awesome. This is why I teach seniors, because a fifth grader would never fix my car.
Right, exactly.
They would just hit me in the face with another pie while we're waiting.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, I think this is a good place to take a break. So we will be right back. All right. Welcome back. So, Devin, I wanted to hear if you have ever confiscated any notes that were of particular interest.
Yes. So I love this story because I actually posted it on Facebook ages ago when I had like no followers. So like nobody saw it, but I was laughing hysterically. It was one of my funniest moments that I love. But I confiscated a note, and it's one of those things where you ever seen the kids' notes where they're like, "Do you like me? Yes, no, maybe." You know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it said, "Do you like me?" I pulled this note up and it said, "Do you like me?" And it said, "Yes, no." Okay. And she responded by writing in maybe and then circled it. And he then got the note and responded back and said, "I didn't put maybe there. I would like a more definitive yes or no." And then
Fair. He's not in games.
Right. And then she responded, "Well, then you're too pushy. So no." and he responded, "Be like that." And it was like literally them arguing back and forth about this yes, no, maybe. But she had a very valid point that he was pushing for a definitive answer, and she gave a maybe. I would have taken the maybe, But,
right.
But
there was at least a shot with a maybe.
There was, and now you're out of it without the now you're done. And I was like, but it was so funny because I knew the two, and it was just very typical, like kind of funny for them because they had the personality that's very defined. And the girl especially, she was like, very hard-headed. This is what I want. And he was very much this is what I want. And I was like, it's such a textbook. The two opposites attract. Two people that are alike, no chance. And it was them battling themselves, wanting definitives and not willing to give definitives. And it was a great note to confiscate. I think I still have it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't throw that one away. I feel like most of the time now kids are just like sending each other Snapchats like under the table and all of that. So you wouldn't really I don't feel like I ever confiscated any good notes. I accidentally texted a very, very long time ago. I was upset about a breakup. I think I was still in high school. Yeah, I would have still been in high school. And I was talking about this boy who had dumped me. And I was so mad. And I was trying to text my friend. And I was like, fuck that guy, blah, blah, blah. And I texted him instead of texting my friend.
I've done that. Yep.
It is the absolute worst thing you can do. Mm-hmm. But that's what you're thinking about. So you're just automatically hit it. And then he wrote back and he's like, okay, well, thanks for letting me know. And I was like, oh my God. Yeah, I wanted to crawl into a hole and die.
So I can top your story by just a little bit. She was in the room. And I texted, thought I was texting my friend. It was during a hurricane. We were in Flagler College, and I went to this hotel room to go see her. And she was my interest at the time, not girlfriend, but we were dating, And I texted my friend. I said, "This girl is so drunk." I said, "This is so unattractive. I want nothing to do with her. Can you come get me?" And literally texted it directly to her. And as soon as I hit send, I closed my flip phone, and I put it down. And all of a sudden, I hear her phone go, and I was like, "Oh, what was that?" And I opened up my phone, and I was like, "Oh no!" And I'll never forget this because it was one of the funniest but dumbest things I did in my life. I literally ran over to her and I grabbed her phone and I go, "Oh my gosh." I said, "I've never seen this brand of phone before. This is so awesome. How does it work?" Delete. And I was like, "Oh man, this is cool." Anyways, here's it back. And I deleted it before she read it. But I was
oh my gosh.
Oh, I would have been mortified. Yeah.
I can't believe you were able to save that though. That's insane.
Yeah. I was so lucky that I caught on right away because I was like, man, I just sent a text message to my friend and here's her phone. getting a text message at the exact same time. How weird is that coincidence? And it it registered. It was, oh no. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, thank God that it also wasn't during the era of like Face ID and all of that, because it would have like shown up on the bottom that you had texted her. And
yeah, I just opened up and I was like, it said new message, and I was like, delete. Don't even want to read it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. There was one time I had a district email sent to me from, he I don't believe he was a fully licensed teacher. I think they had him in there supervising, like, where they do credit recovery classes. And so they just have like an adult in the room who sometimes actually gets to teach, but most of the time you're just there saying, please do your work on the modules or whatever. Right. And he had been there for like 2 or 3 months. And we all of a sudden got 16 emails from this guy linking to his YouTube channel where he is like yelling about politics, and like he was very clearly very, very mentally ill and was losing it. And he had sent it to the entire massive district. And it was not on a weekday. I think it was like a Saturday night. And so I'm texting my coworkers and I'm like, did you guys see this? And they're like, no, what? And so we all start looking at it. And then the district was able to slowly make them disappear from everyone's email inboxes. So some people didn't see any of them. I went through and watched every single one of his videos because they were just insane. I was like, I need to know, because this guy worked like 2 doors down from me, not anymore, because that's why he was upset, because he got terminated.
Right.
But yeah, and like I was kind of impressed because the district was able to like remove it from inboxes, which I didn't know was even possible.
That's interesting. There was a lady in payroll that I did not get along with. I did not get along with her at all. And it was just something that I forget. There was like an error one time in my paycheck, and I messaged her, and she just acted like I was the biggest idiot and I didn't know what I was talking about. And I was like, no, I know what I'm talking about. And this is where the problem, and I proved her wrong. And she was like super smug, a jerk about it. Well, like maybe a month after all that happened, somebody sent an email to her. She sent an email to everybody with the new payroll dates or something. And somebody sent an email and was like, oh, looks like the district is slacking or something like that. And she clicked reply all. And it went to everybody in the district, where she said, yeah, par for the course. They pretty much treat us like crap. And I saw it come through, and I was like, I literally went full on Mr. Burns. I was like, ugh. I was like, let's see how this plays out. She had to send like a big apology email to everybody. She kept her job, but I was like, oh man, as soon as I saw that come through, I was so happy. You don't wish bad things on people, but sometimes it's okay,
But sometimes it just feels like they're just desserts.
Right.
So,
yep.
Oh my gosh, that would be so mortifying. And the reply alls in general at schools are particularly bad. Like, I have never worked at a school where there was not several teachers that it doesn't matter what it is. There's cookies in the break room, reply all, yum. Don't.
Right.
Don't.
Yep. The worst that I hate is happy birthday to such and such. And they respond, oh my gosh, happy birthday. And I'm like, we saw that it's their birthday. We all said it's a happy birthday in general email. There's no need for you to send a message to all of us saying the same thing we just all saw. It just, drives me nuts.
The worst. That's one that irritates me probably the most, is when it's like either a congratulations one or a happy birthday or something like that everyone hits reply all, because they don't actually care about like saying it to the person. They want everyone to know that they're like, this is actually about me now and how great I am for saying happy birthday to,
the sad part is, I bet if we did like a scientific analysis of all the people that have replied all like that, I bet they have like, I bet there's a higher ratio of district jobs and like cush jobs. You know what I mean? Because they're like
100%.
They're the suck ups, and they want the acknowledgement of who they are. And I'd be willing to bet that there's a higher ratio of them that move up into nicer positions. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, they get what's it called? What is it called when you're like really bad at your job and then they just keep moving you up? It's like failing up or whatever.
Failing up. Yeah. Yep. I believe it.
That happens all too often. I feel like with administrators too, like there were a few assistant principals that were not great. And then they would just get moved to a different, larger district. And then you'd hear like, oh yeah, they're a full principal now. And I'm like, with, for a school with children in it?
Yeah.
Are you, all right, well.
I was in all F&D schools, and literally our principals would never get fired. They got reassigned. And a lot of times it was higher up jobs. And I'm like, how do you just we have an F in this school. Like nothing worked. And they're like, you know what? We want you up over top of people. Just never made sense. If anything, they should have been like, okay, you're back in the classroom.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen that happen. Mm. Like where somebody gets like demoted back down and then like stays in the classroom. Like some leave education entirely, but I don't think I've ever seen like an admin go from like principal or AP to like, okay, now I'm going to like go back to teaching and remember what it's like.
You know what I've seen though so I speak at a lot of rural schools, and like when I go to like rural schools, what I've seen lately is their teacher shortage has caused admin to have to teach. And I've actually spoken to a few schools recently where the principal has been like, so this is my office, and also my classroom is just down the hall. And I'm like, your classroom? And they're like, yeah, I teach half the day, second grade. And I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah. And then the other assistant principal takes over the other half. And I've seen it quite a bit lately where they have to be back in the classroom. Like there's just no other option. You have kids, they need a teacher, and you're in the middle of nowhere. There's no options. Yeah. So they teach again. And I think it's better. I think it reconnects them, you know?
Yeah. And it's one of those things too, where, you know, it's been now 9 months since I taught high school, and I visited a middle school today. And as I was walking through, I noticed there like a lot of them were watching movies, and I was like, why are they all watching movies today? And I was thinking about it, and I was like, it's the Friday before spring break. Like, how do I forget that this is the Friday before spring break? I'd be watching a movie for sure if I were still in the classroom.
Right.
Like 1,000%. Like one was like watching Finding Nemo. One was watching March Madness.
Oh,
like, but it was the math.
Amateur teachers. What you do is you go with Gods and Generals. It's 4.5 hours long. You have to start it on the Tuesday in order to finish it by the Friday. You gotta know these things. Yeah, always go.
That's right.
The runtime is a big deal. I'm like, oh, this one's 3 hours. Oh, we're gonna have to start that, on Wednesdays. I don't want to leave them hanging.
No, that would be terrible for the children.
Right.
So, were there any resources that you had that you really loved when you were in the classroom?
Mm-hmm. And so this one I really want to talk about, because teachers don't know, students don't know. Your school district, the media center, has a massive catalog of journals, of online research portals, of online textbooks, of just, if you went to any media specialist in your school and was like, hey, can you show me what the school has to offer? They would light up first and foremost. And secondly, they would just open up this treasure chest that I didn't know existed. And it was one of the few PDs that I got something from, where we went into the media center, and she's like, you guys don't realize, like, we have access to online versions of the New York Times in its entirety, the Wall Street Journal in its entirety, Junior Scholastic. We have every single issue dating back to like 1975. We have all this stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I'm the only one like taking notes, paying attention. And I went on there, and like, I would have teachers go, where did you get this resource? Where did you get? And I'm like, it's free. We have it all there. You just never utilized it. And the students, it would blow their minds too, because I'd be like, let's go research in this catalog and through these journals. And they didn't know what they were used to Wikipedia. And so it was different for them to have to see like scholarly stuff, but also the amount of videos that we had access to. Like the teachers always think Netflix, Disney Plus, stuff like that. There's like so many online, like I remember Discovery Classroom was really big, and we had full access to that. And I would find perfect videos for the topic I wanted, with full printout sheets of lesson plans, of activities, all with that 4-minute clip or 30-minute clip or whatever I wanted. And I'd go, okay, so I'm teaching the War of 1812, and I want this specific, battle. And I would type in that battle, and they'd be like, here's the video outlining the battle. Here's the analysis of it. Here's what other teachers have said about it. And it just blew my mind. And every single time we did PLC learning communities, I would bring up, okay, well, if we're going to talk about that, here's what I have. And they'd be like, oh my gosh, you did this? And I'm like, no. And they're like, oh, you bought it on Teachers Pay Teachers? I'm like, no. I'm like, it's literally free. And they're like, where? And I'm like, we have a media center intranet, like not internet, intranet. And you never utilize it. It's right there. And all the textbooks too. People forget, like, you have a textbook, but a lot of times the textbook comes with an online curriculum that is already there. And it comes with videos, activities, interactive, graphs and charts and full on PowerPoints. And it's all already designed. But I just never understood, the fight for information when most districts have so much already that they just subscribe to. And you just never realize it. But if you go to your media center specialist, it's going to be like, oh, wow, all that? Yeah. I mean, they get access to like the National Archives and National Library, and you need books. People think today, if you need a book, you go to your library, and like, if they don't have it, they don't have it. But local libraries will literally ship you the book like the next day. Yeah. Like whatever book you want. People buy books. I'm like, why do you buy books? You can literally type in if it came out yesterday, you can go to the library online thing and go, I want this. Here's my address. Done. And it's at your house. And they have, I live in Orlando. Our public library has their own delivery service. And so they literally will come to your house in a little library bus, and they'll bring the book right up to your door and set it on your front porch. And when you're done, you just click done and they come grab it from you. It's like,
oh my gosh,
it's awesome.
It's fantastic. Yeah. The last school I was at was very much like that, where, they had everything. And you're right. If you go to the media center or to the librarian and you say what resources do you have, it will 1000% make their week, because most of the time you're right. I think a lot of teachers just forget, or there's a very slight learning curve of figuring out where to get them. And for some people that feels insurmountable, I guess. Mm-hmm. At my first school in Virginia, when I first started there, they were getting rid of all hard copies of books from their library. The librarian that they had there had very passionate beliefs about how we were moving into how did she put it? She had a mission statement, and the phrase post-literate society was part of it. And I'm like, ma'am, you're a librarian. What, what is happening? And she
imagine a doctor being like, we're going to go to a post-medicine society. Okay.
Insane. And she was kind of a little bit of a goofy character anyways, but she fully passionately wanted to get rid of every hard copy of books. She had exercise bikes in the library, fish tanks, a video game setup where you could go and play Dance Dance Revolution, and all of these different things, and everything was going to be online. And so there was just computers and then exercise equipment. And I was like, I think we went too far. I get we need we need to embrace the digital world and use the resources, but we don't have to get rid of all the paper that we already have. That is a wild decision.
You should have gone to her and be like, ma'am, vinyls are coming back. I don't think we're getting rid of books anytime soon.
Oh,
unless you live in Florida. Yeah. We got rid of them a long time ago.
But that's true. Yeah, for sure. Pretty sure you get arrested if you have one there.
Right.
Yeah. But it blew my mind that she I don't understand how someone in their life matriculates to becoming a librarian and then goes, we don't need books.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
It's just wild.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we always do on the podcast is I get questions from listeners, and then you get to share your advice with the listeners on your take. So one of the questions was, how can a teacher stay defiantly hopeful and keep teaching if they are asked to teach 4 preps, given no content, have extra duties, and are given no collaboration? It seems hopeless. And this person's from California.
So That's hard. I mean, as somebody who taught literally 4 preps and had assistant coaching, it was very difficult. I will say that.
Yeah.
One thing that I found that helped me is when you're not teaching the same material to each class, getting the other classes, I would set aside like 5-10 minutes and have them help me grade stuff from the other classes because I'm like, they're not taking this material. They're not getting anything out of it. I just need I just would say, look, I got 4 preps. I need a little bit of help. The last 5 minutes of class, I'm just going to pass out the quiz I just took with the period before. And I need you guys just to grade it for me. And they were on board, and they take out the red pen. I'd pass them out and they would help me. And it helped me tremendously to cut time out to where it's all about just adding like just an extra like 5 minutes, 10 minutes here and there, small steps. My best bit of advice that I'll give for somebody so the question right then that you just asked, the way you phrased it is the problem that a lot of teachers have is we see the big picture and we see the huge job that we have in total. And I always felt like I did it much better by breaking it down into little pieces and just saying from 3 to 3:15 after school, I'm going to handle just this one prep. I'm not going to go, oh man, I got 6 classes. I'm going to handle just this one prep. 3:15 to 3:30, I'm going to handle just this one prep. I'm going to make sure to dead stop and then go into this. And 3:30 to 3:45, dead stop, and kind of divide up that planning time, or you're going to let it bleed into the other. And then your stress from not having enough time to plan for the other one will completely ruin all the planning that you did for the one that you did plan for. Like it's all about breaking it up into pieces. I'm really passionate about that mindset of going just a little bit at a time. What do I have to do right now? How can I concentrate on the task at hand in the moment and go from there?
Yeah, I think compartmentalizing is huge, especially with the 4 preps. I've done that before as well. And it's a lot to wrap your brain around, especially if you ever have to take a day off and then you have to be like, okay, I need an icebreaker for 4 classes. I need, whatever. My first reaction when I saw this question was literally like, are there any other districts in your area that are hiring?
Right.
because that system of the 4 preps and not given resources, plus the extra duty, plus not having collaboration, like, I'm not going to say that it's hopeless for this person, but I would say like, if it's been more than a year or 2 and it's been like that, before deciding to leave teaching altogether, I would suggest trying a different school or a different district that maybe is a little bit more collaborative, a little bit more supportive of their teachers.
Right.
Because that kind of a school, it drains you and it like sucks the joy out of teaching a lot of times in a way that like is very, very unsustainable. Because I did it. I had a school that I taught at for 3 years like that. And I almost like at that point wanted to leave the education field entirely because I was just so drained.
Mm-hmm.
And I went from that to a very big school that had all the collaboration and very few extra duties and all of that. And it was like, oh yeah, that's right. I love this. Like, I love to do this, So sometimes it's compartmentalizing and sometimes it's maybe looking to see if there's other options that might treat you better.
Yep, I agree. And there's one other bit of advice that I'll give that worked for me. And I don't know if you've ever done anything like this, but my first few years in teaching high school out of middle school, I was mentally exhausted and I always felt overly tired, always felt overly stressed, always felt like sick, like physically ill from so much to do. And I just would be so tired, struggling to get through things. And then one of the tennis coaches asked me if I wanted to play some tennis with him after school. And I said, sure. I like tennis. And so I got back into it. And we would meet for 30 minutes after school. We'd go out to the tennis courts and I'd exercise. And I noticed that after I exercised, I'd go back to the classroom or go home. And I was just zeroed in, focused. Energy levels went back up. I got stuff done quicker. I really was able to concentrate a lot easier instead of just feeling like, oh man, I don't feel like it. I felt like I made it a point after that, even outside of tennis season. Every day after school, we had a big high school, and I would go into the gym or I'd go walk the track for just 30 minutes and get some energy back, let off some stress, feel better, and I felt like it really helped. I felt like that really helped.
I agree. Well, Devin, before I let you go, could you share with everyone where they can find you, what you have going on, and all that good stuff?
Sure. So devincomedy.com. I also speak in schools. So teachersneedlaughter.com is kind of the new speaking website that I've been steering people to. And I host a podcast, Crying in My Car. And also I'm on tour with the Board Teachers Comedy Tour. So most teachers, it's not that they find me, it's that I find them across their timelines at some point, which is great. I love seeing the teachers, love helping them laugh and ease the stress for sure. So hopefully I see them at a school or a function or somewhere, and we can share some laughter, some stories. So yeah, it's great.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Devin. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Those Who Can't Do. I hope that you guys really enjoyed my conversation with Devin. I was cracking up that he was like literally vomiting in his classroom. I have thankfully, even when I was dealing with morning sickness with pregnancy with kids and all that stuff, I never actually got to that point. But I think all of us can appreciate and know what it's like to come to school when we really should just be home in bed with Gatorade and crackers and all of that stuff. So it was just so fun hearing from him. And I've seen him do stand-up, and he is truly hilarious. He's one of those people that you're laughing so hard you feel like you're having to like catch your breath in the midst of his set. So if you do ever see board teachers coming through, I mean, Devin is one of the ones who's there almost every time. So do not miss him if he comes to your city. So now let's move to hearing what your students are up to. Somebody submitted that a student got onto a golf cart that belonged to security and rode around the school with security chasing them on foot. Which like feels like something that would happen in a Van Wilder movie. Like it's absolutely unhinged behavior, but so classic. Like I know students that would do stuff like that. And usually they're not the students that are like you actually don't like because they're disrespectful or awful, but they're like goofy and silly. And then they push it a little too far by like stealing security's golf cart. I just feel, I wish they had submitted video or photos of that because I feel like it would have been so funny. And one of the other ones that was submitted is that a student started to twerk because they got an A+ on a 10-point assignment. And you know, if that happened in my class, I think I would probably tell them to sit down, but I would also just be glad that they cared enough to celebrate however they saw fit with their whole heart and soul and body. Because some days it's really hard to get students to even turn stuff in, much less getting an A+ on something. So we're going to take the wins wherever we can get them. If you have thoughts about what we talked about today, or you want to reach out and tell me something that your students are doing, you can reach me on Instagram and TikTok at Educator Andrea, or you can email me at andrea@human-content.com. Or you can contact the whole Human Content Podcast family on TikTok at Human Content Pods. And this is still a new podcast, so I really appreciate you guys tuning in and listening and leaving your feedback and your reviews. I really appreciate it. And whenever you leave a review, keep an eye out for the end of the episode because we might do some shout outs and you might just hear your name. If you want to catch full video episodes, they're up every week on YouTube at Educator Andrea. Thank you guys so much for listening. I am your host, Andrea Forkham. A very special thank you to our guest, Devin Siebold. Our executive producers are Andrea Forkham, Aaron Corney, Rob Goldman, and Shanti Brooke. Our editor is Andrew Sims. Our engineer is Jason Portizo. Our music is by Omer Ben-Zvi. Our recording location is the Indiana State By College of Education. To learn about our Those Who Can't Do's program disclaimer and ethics policy and submission verifications and licensing terms, you can go to podcasterandrea.com. Those Who Can't Do is a Human Content production. Thank you so much for watching. If you're like me and you're thinking, gosh, I really need more Those Who Can't Do in my life, you can start your binging right now by clicking on that playlist button right over there. New episodes are out every Thursday, so please subscribe and join us each week on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.